very mean. Very mean. It's like if you don't have money, they don't. It's so slow.
Okay, let's get started. So in this class, we are going to cover the Java for statement. So the for statement is very much similar to the while statement, but it is like a more compact form in which you can have like three things which happen inside the for statement. First is the initialization. Then you check whether the condition is true or not. That condition is a Boolean expression. It can be true or false. Okay, and at the end of the iteration you update some variable. Let's say you want to iterate from 1 to 10. So 1 is the initialization. You're initializing the loop counter to 1. Okay, and then you check. So this initialization will happen only once. It will not happen on subsequent iterations. Only at the very first iteration it will do that. And then on every iteration it will check whether this condition is true or not. Now 1 is less than or equal to 10. So it will execute the block of the for statement. The block starts from the opening brace and ends at the closing brace. And the block is basically a compound statement which contains a set of statements. So it will execute all the statements inside the block. Okay, and at the end of this iteration it will increment the I by 1. So I becomes 2, and then it will again check whether 2 is less than or equal to 10. It is. So this will go on till I is 10. When I is 10, this condition means less than or equal to. Since 10 is equal to 10, it is still true. So it will execute the block for I equal to 10. And at the end of that iteration, it will increment the I to 11. Now 11 is more than 10, so this condition is false. So it will come out of the loop. And after coming out of this for, it will execute the next statement in the for. Okay. There is one more way. It is called as an enhanced for loop. Okay. I will cover that in the example as well. So for example, if you want to iterate over an array or a collection, you can use this enhanced for loop, which is called as a for each loop. Okay, so in the for each, what you should do is you should first write the colon, and on the right side you should write the name of the collection or the array. On the left side you should write what each element of this collection or array, what is the type of each element of that array or collection. That type you should write here. Let's say if the collection contains a set of primitive ints, so you should write int here. If the collection contains a set of floats, you should write the type as float. And this element is just a name. Okay, so now what happens is every element of this array or collection will be assigned to this element for each iteration. So for example, if you have args, right? Args is the array of arguments, command line arguments that you pass to your Java program. And if I want to iterate over that array, first write the colon. On the right side of the colon, write the name of the array or collection. In this case, we are writing the name of the array, which is args. And on the left side, what does each element of the array contain? What is the type? It's a string. So write that string here. And this arg, you can give any name to it. You can call it each arg, or just give a meaningful name. Okay, and then you can access that element inside this block. So in this case, all he's doing is printing that argument. So this is called as an enhanced for loop, which started from JDK 1.5. It was not there in JDK 1.4. So you need to remember that it started only from JDK 1.5. But it makes it so much easier to understand and read your code as compared to writing these three statements here: init, condition, and update. So let's look at an example of this for loop. I have a small demo program here. Okay, so it takes the arguments. In the first one, it is initializing the loop counter I to 0, and it is checking whether I is less than args.length. For an array, the argument index for the array, the index of the array starts from 0 to length minus 1, right? So you're starting from 0, and length minus 1 will always be less than length. So you want to check that each index of the array is less than the length of the array. And then at the end of each iteration, you increment the value of I. So this is the same example that we had in the while loop as well. So in this example, the first time what we are doing is we are using the regular for loop, and the next time what we do is we use the enhanced for loop construct. So we put the args on the right side of the colon. On the left side, we specify the length, the type of each argument, and here instead of I'm giving the name as each element. You can give any name as possible, any name that you want. Just make sure that you give a meaningful name. Instead of each element, you can call it as each argument, right? So now let's run this program. So since I did not pass any arguments, it just printed the length of this array as 0. Now let's run the same program by passing some arguments to it. Let's copy these arguments from our demo while, right? So the demo for, I'm passing the same arguments. So what this will do is when it encounters a question mark or a colon, it will print a new line character. If it encounters any other word, it will just print the word with a space. Okay. So apply and run. So if you see the console log here, you'll see that it will first print hello, how are you, I am doing fine. And the length of the array arguments is 8. Hello comma is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one. See, if you see here, if the argument does not end with question mark or colon or dot, if it ends with question mark or dot, it will print the argument, but it will also print a new line because there is a println, right? And if there is no question mark or colon at the end, it will just print that argument along with a space at the end. There's a print here, it's not a println. So each word will get printed with a space at the end. And the same thing happens with the enhanced for loop. We go over each element of the array, but if you look at this whole thing here, it is so much more simpler. First of all, you don't have to write all this stuff here, and then we don't have to access each element of the array with the index I. So wherever you are doing args I, it happens, it's 1, 2, and 3 places. In those 3 places, we are just using the name that you give here. So we are using each element here, here, and here. It's so much more understandable to give a meaningful name than trying to refer it with an index, right? So the enhanced for loop will take care of all the index things for you. It will also take care of doing this, incrementing the array index and doing all that stuff for you. Okay, so why don't you run this program and try it out to get a better understanding of this program and of the for loop.